The protesters met in Homestead, Florida, and chanted "Si puede, yes, you can," and displayed flags from countries such as El Salvador and Mexico, whose president also opposes DeSantis. The event was organized by Pueblo en Acción, or WEPA, which claimed a turnout of 3,000. The May 27 event got much publicity from established progressives who hope to damage DeSantis' presidential campaign with a statewide, business-backed walkout by illegals on June 1. For example, NPR claimed on May 30. Pressure is growing for a boycott of Florida, including Latino truck drivers who vow to stop deliveries across the state and calls for an immigrant labor strike on June 1. Businesses are pledging to shutter their doors for the day to protest Governor Ron DeSantis' sweeping new immigration law. For years, the Republican presidential hopeful has railed relentlessly against U.S. immigration policies and newly arrived asylum seekers. Senate Bill 1718, which takes effect on July 1, will offer a preview of the controversial changes DeSantis has said he'd like to see Congress implement. The Florida Policy Institute, a left-wing, nonprofit policy research group, estimates that without undocumented workers, the state's most labor-intensive industries would lose 10% of their workforce and the wages they contribute along with them. The most important part of the legislation is a requirement that companies use the federal e-Verifi system to ensure that job applicants are not illegals. However, the overall impact is not yet clear, partly because the donor-dominated, GOP-majority state legislature included many loopholes in the legislation to protect business interests. Still, migrants are losing jobs to Americans, and some are leaving the state. Any drop in the number of illegal workers is a gain for American employees because it pressures CEOs to compete for workers. That competition drives up pay, an investor-funded study admitted in 2020. On May 14, NPR also quoted a spokesman for an investor-backed group who complained about the wage-spiking loss of cheap, illegal workers. These are blue-collar industries where immigrants make up the vast majority of workers, and not allowing businesses to be able to utilize these workers will have a really big impact on our economy and their ability to create jobs. The exit of any illegal also helps to bump up pay for many categories of Americans, because they will have more opportunities to upgrade their jobs and careers. The exits also reduce housing prices, as well as state and local welfare spending. Nobody has a right to immigrate to this country, DeSantis said on May 10 as he signed his sweeping state-level law curbing illegal migration in Florida jobs and housing. He continued, "We determine as Americans what type of immigration system benefits our country, but when you're doing immigration, it's not for their benefit as foreigners, it's for your benefit as Americans. So if there's legal immigration that's harming Americans, we shouldn't do that either. For example, some of these H-1B visas, they would fire American tech workers and hire foreigners at lower wages. I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong. I think we should have more of a point system for immigrants, like Canada or Australia. I don't think we should have chain migration, diversity lottery, any of that, which is a lot of our immigration here," he added. Many polls show that American voters want curbs on legal and illegal migration. An Ipsos May 5 to 7 poll of 1,022 adults asked, "Do you support or oppose raising the number of immigrants allowed into the U.S. each year?" 54% oppose, and 44% support more migrants. But just 16% of all adults, and 15% of independents, strongly support more migrants, while 31% of all adults and 30% of independents strongly oppose the inflow. Extraction migration. The federal government has long operated an unpopular economic policy of extraction migration. This colonialism-like policy extracts vast amounts of human resources from needy countries, reduces beneficial trade, and uses the imported workers, renters, and consumers to grow Wall Street and the economy. The migrant inflow has successfully forced down Americans' wages and also boosted rents and housing prices. The inflow has also pushed many native-born Americans out of careers in a wide variety of business sectors and contributed to the rising death rate of poor Americans. The lethal policy also sucks jobs and wealth from heartland states by subsidizing coastal investors with a flood of low-wage workers, high-occupancy renters, and government-aided consumers. The population inflow also reduces the political clout of native-born Americans, because the population replacement allows elites to divorce themselves from the needs and interests of ordinary Americans. Migration, and especially labor migration, is unpopular among swing voters. A 54% majority of Americans say Biden is allowing a southern border invasion, according to an August 2022 poll commissioned by the Left of Center National Public Radio, NPR. The 54% invasion majority included 76% of Republicans, 46% of independents, and even 40% of Democrats.